Jason. Thank
Hi,
you so
Sarah.
much for talking to me.
Hi, how are you?
I'm excited. You created some of my favorite shows, and this has now made it up there to like the top of the list. I still need to know what happens on Almost Family. I'm just
okay.
I'm like, no, I need more.
Right.
With all these fantastic shows that you make, like Friday Night Lights, Almost Family, what was the inspiration behind As We See It?
Well, As We See It was, I have a son on the spectrum. A few years ago, when I started thinking about the show, he was becoming a young adult. And I started thinking, well, what's the experience like for a young adult on the spectrum? We hear a lot about kids on the spectrum, read a lot about it, see a lot about it. But to really know what the experience was like for a young adult on the spectrum, I felt was less explored. And then I saw this. There was an Israeli show called On the Spectrum, that was really that was this show. That's what inspired me to do this. And I saw that, I was like, eureka! This is the story I want to tell, and that's how it started. And I was lucky to find that Amazon, who felt as passionate about telling the story as I did, and gave and because they believed in the show so much, we were really able to do a version of it that I'm really proud of. I'm just very proud of the show.
It's so good. And I want to commend you for actually casting actors who live their life on the spectrum, because there's a handful of shows out there who didn't do that. And then maybe throw in some side characters. Something that I've heard from like people who, when there's other shows, there's like a love show for those who live on the spectrum. There's, the Good Doctor and a handful of other things. And they feel that maybe like a show like this is exploitive to those who live on the spectrum. What do you say to those people?
Well, first of all, everybody is totally entitled to their own, feelings about it. And I'm sure those feelings are valid. And there's no way for me to know, there's no way for me to answer that, because if you feel that way, then that's true for you. My feeling is, I did like a PSA a few years ago where there was a statistic that kind of stayed with me, which is 80% of college graduates with autism are unemployed. 80%. I was like, well, there's something wrong with this, very, very, very wrong with this story. So my feeling is, by putting this story out into the world, by putting the story about these young adults on the spectrum, casting it authentically, showing their beauty, their intelligence, their humor, their heart, is a good thing to put out in the world. I can only go with my heart. I can only go with what I'm passionate about, what I believe. If somebody doesn't think that's good, that's totally their right, and it's valid. But I kind of just have to go, this is your life. It's just like anything, like any decision you make. Ultimately, you go with your heart, and you hope that you're on the right path.
Amazing. And what is like, I agree with you. I don't agree with that, but I've heard a friend of mine said that about a different show we were watching. I was like, I think it's very important to have this kind of representation. And if you feel weird about it, that's on you. Like that's something you need to work out. Right. What is it that you're really hoping viewers take away from this show?
Well, I hope they take away what I took away, which is I was sitting in the editing room and I was like, it's funny. I set out to do this story about neurodiversity, about adults on the spectrum. And I was in the editing room thinking, this is just a great coming of age story. I'm like laughing, I'm crying. It's like my favorite thing in the world to like find myself laughing. And then the next second I'm crying. And I'm like, how did that happen? And this show does that. And so I feel like the thing that I want people to take away from it is that the show is a delight. The show is a delight and a beautiful thing that also, because it has this specificity about the subject matter, is also like really like an important thing to put that kind of narrative out there in the world. And so that's what I'm hoping the takeaway is.
I love it. Thank you so much for talking with me today. And I hope everyone checks out As We See It on Amazon Prime.